I think just in 2020, I've produced records, co-produced records for, Nas, Joey Badass, The Lox, Public Enemy, big legendary artists. And that was through teamwork. And so we're splitting everything. And there hasn't been a single instance in which me and the other producers fought over our percentages. What's going down? It's the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast powered by BeatStars, beatstars.live. We're live every Monday and every Thursday, so tune in. It's a free online music business mentorship program, and I don't know what else to say about it. It's totally free. We bring in experts in the field of artist management, label ownership, recording artistry, producers, managers, music marketers. You can ask questions live. You'll get your questions answered live. Goes down at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Mondays and Thursdays, but it's also archived. So check the BeatStars channels, check the MEC channels, check the DJ Pain 1 channel. It's all going to be there. Dame, how are you feeling?
I'm doing good, man. The Dodgers won the World Series, so LA is being selfish with all the championships this year. So shout out to the Dodgers. I'm definitely a Dodger fan, so I enjoyed. Now there's no more sport. I guess there's football if you're a football fan. I'm not a huge football guy, but I'll watch them. I'll watch the games, but now I guess I just gotta wait till NBA starts again, whenever that is. But it was good to see the Dodgers finally get a World Series after hella long.
Congratulations.
Well, I mean, I don't benefit from it, but it's at least financial. But it was dope. Like I grew up playing baseball, so I love the game. I understand why a lot of people think it's boring. But it was dope. But in terms of the MEC, we had a really dope session on Monday with Andrew Barber, who is the founder of Fake Short Drive, which was
shout out to him.
A pretty well recognized blog, across the country or globally, but definitely in the Midwest in Chicago. Definitely a pivotal platform for a lot of artists that came from that area. But he's obviously, as blogs have decrease in influence, he's been able to pivot into other things, whether it's events, and he's managing artists and he's doing stuff on Shade 45. So it was a really dope conversation because there's not a lot of people like him that have so many different perspectives on the music industry, that ran a blog, that's, doing stuff on Sirius Radio, that's managing an artist, that's doing events, and it's working with major labels. Like it's always good to have people with different perspectives because, if you've only done one thing, then you're pretty limited in probably how you move and what you know. So it was awesome talking to him. It was my first time actually. I've known the name, and we've been connected on Twitter, and I know we have a lot of the same contacts, but I've never spoken to him before, so I thought that was dope.
Yeah, he's definitely supportive. When it came to me releasing music and networking with blogs, he was definitely like one of three. It was like him, Two Dope Boys, and DJ Booth. So yeah. Shout out to them.
And those are the type of people that people get access to when you join our sessions on Monday and Thursday. So for you not to tap in, then I just assume you know everything and you're doing well and you're killing it. So continue to do that if that is the case. And
then also leave a comment on our Instagram post about how we don't know anything. So Dame, I recently tweeted, don't spend all your time searching for the right team and become the right team yourself. I don't want to talk about the backlash I got for that, but I want to introduce your topic, which is navigating the music business with your team. And I guess some of the pitfalls that an artist could experience by throwing a team together.
Yeah, it was actually a conversation that was on Clubhouse a few days ago. I
don't want to talk about Clubhouse.
That we're still trying to get paint on. But they were just talking about, like, when you have a team as an artist, whether it's your videographer or producers, you guys are not necessarily tied to each other contractually most times, right? So as an artist has more success, what happens to that team or that family? Like, how do you navigate that? And there's all types of things that can happen, right? Like an artist can get signed Or somebody, an artist gets signed, or maybe an artist kind of outgrows their team, or maybe they're working harder than everybody on their team and they're getting better at their craft faster than everybody else, right? And then they want to start using, better quality individuals to fill those roles. Like, obviously that's going to, spark some tension, because your day ones are going to be like, well, what about us? So just a lot of things can happen in pain. I know you've probably had some experiences. Well, I know you've had some experience that you spoke to in the past. Like, how do you kind of maintain communication, maintain a working relationship? How do you relax ego, so that everybody continues to win? If you're putting your best foot forward, like, how do you manage that? You want to talk about your experience, Payne, with your team and the people that you worked with?
I mean, for me, it's all over the place. I've had so many. I'll put it this way. Already, I have trouble with just the concept of a team, because it's such a loose term, and as you said, it's generally not some kind of contractual agreement. Obviously, there are situations where, maybe I've had a manager and that's based on some kind of contract, or I'm working with someone so closely, like a recording artist, and we have a 50-50 deal, and it's a little bit formal. But when we're talking about, especially if you're starting out, you're working with a graphics guy, you're working with a bunch of artists because you guys started a collective or a label or whatever the case is. That's where I saw, to borrow Curtis King's term, that's where I saw a good majority of my heartbreak, because we were people who interacted. It was all good. We were friendly. We were friends. We had a crew, whatever. And that's what I was used to, just having a crew of people around, and we were like-minded, and it was just kind of like, we supported each other no matter what, that kind of thing. For me, what I noticed was what you said. The more I dedicated my time to a very focused plan, the less others did the same. And so I thought naturally, because we're all on the same team, that the more progress I made, the harder they would work, because they see what I'm doing and it's working. And it's like, hey, what are you doing? How can we do it here? This is what I'm doing. Here's the blueprint. But instead, it just kind of became a toxic environment where I was expected to just transfer over all of that progress to everybody else without them actually, walking with me on that path. And it's like, I can't teleport you to where I am. You actually have to walk there. And I think that's a huge mistake that people make. They think they're going to get the right manager, and they're just going to end up neck and neck with them without doing any work. In the vast majority of cases, that's not how it is. When I switched over to just saying, you know what, I don't need a team of other artists necessarily around me. I just need the people that I need, and if it means paying them, if it means having agreements with them, cool. Like whether it's a booking manager, I'm not doing that myself. Whether it's a videographer, I don't know how to do that. Graphic designer, whatever, I got to pay them. I started moving towards that model of teamwork. But I would see, and we've had this conversation before, you were far more of a manager than I was. I've only managed one artist my whole life. I think I did a great job, and that was another big heartbreak moment for me, because what I would see was what you also pointed out, that the artists felt as though they were finding success themselves rather than the success being a byproduct of the synergy of the team, which to me was clear because I was doing a lot of the hard work and putting this artist along with my management partner, Shal, putting a lot of things together and putting our reputations on the line and really caring about the artist as a person and as a musician, and seeing results because of it. And so we both had our hearts broken when the artist pretty much just gave us the middle finger and said, I can do this myself. And,
That's one of the comments that a lot of managers hear, and I tweeted about this maybe a week or so ago. Like, every manager has probably heard the words like, well, I could have done that myself. Like, every manager's probably, and that is to downplay like what you're doing. Like, say you do something for an artist, and the fact of the matter is they could have done it themselves. That, like, it's like it's possible that they could have done it themselves. Like, it's not something that they just don't understand, but it would have never gotten done. Like, it just would have never gotten done.
Yeah.
But an artist will come back and be like, well, I could have done that myself. It's like, well, you didn't. I waited for 3 weeks and you didn't do it. Like, when were you going to do it? And managers just have to know that there's going to be a ton of those. Like, and you're not going to get credit for those, because there's a lot of things that that technically artists can do on their own, but leave them to their own devices and they're not going to do it. And it's so frustrating when you hear that comment, because it lets you know that they don't really value what you're bringing to the table. And it's like one of the most disrespectful comments that doesn't really sound disrespectful, but it's one of the most disrespectful comments that an artist
No, it is. It's like looking at the EMTs that just transported you to the hospital because you're having a heart attack and saying, I could have driven myself. I'm not trying to pay $400 for this, which, granted, the cost of healthcare is insane. That's a political conversation. But these people are trying to save your life. A manager is trying to do for you. They're not doing for themselves. If a manager gets you an event and takes their 20%, just shut the fuck up, pay them their 20%. You didn't get this show. Next time you get the damn show, or don't sign a contract. I mean, and to me, that's, and I think you might disagree. For me, I would never go through this again. I say that, maybe I would, I don't know. But thankfully, I had a contractual agreement with this artist, and I think it would have been it was a bad situation no matter what, because I didn't want to walk away from it, because he was doing great things, and we were doing great things together. But if that's not the situation he wanted, you can't force it. So we had to deal with that according to the terms of the contract. But I feel like that's the litmus test, because I saw that same manager that I partnered with do the informal management with other artists who just said, you know what? Yeah, you've done a lot for me for free. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, Dame, a lot of managers, when they care about the artist, will waive that 20%. If they're getting you a small opportunity, like, oh, hey, $200 for an Instagram story from this company, I'm not taking 20%. That's small money. Keep it all. Just here's the connect. Make that money yourself.
We went even a step further. Like, I didn't take a commission from any artist, like, so Dizzy or like, I didn't take a commission until they were like, on their feet making money from their music. Like, yeah. I didn't take a commission until they could support themselves with their music. Like,
were they on contract with you?
Yeah, okay. Dizzy was signed to us. Or, like, if he did a tour, like his first few tours, obviously they're not making crazy amounts of money, so it's like, okay, yeah. Let him have everything that came from that tour. Like,
yeah, no, I mean, I was the same way. Granted, we weren't running a label in the way that you and Hobson were, but yeah, you get a $500 show guarantee and all expenses paid. What is 20% of that going to do for me? This is going to change your life more than it's going to change mine. And I know if we as managers can get you 500 for this event, then all we have to do is try a little harder. We'll get you 15 the next time. Then I'll take 20%, because, the remainder after the commission is taken out is a good amount of money for you. For a young musician in my city, that's great. So that was my outlook. And I saw the manager that I worked with. I should just bring him on, because I think I have I brought him on? I don't think so. Not on the podcast. Just to talk about this stuff, because that's like heartbreak central, because I saw it happen with so many artists that he either had kind of loose agreements with, and an agreement doesn't mean a damn thing to an artist that's going to quit anyway. But to an artist that's going to keep going, and tries to pull that, well, I could have done this myself. If you don't have the agreement, they'll walk away. And sometimes that agreement will trigger them to walk away because they feel like suddenly, you know, a lot of artists just have this commitment phobia. So when you're a manager and you say, hey, from now on, I'd like you to have a look at everything I've done for you without even asking for a percentage. Now I'm going to formalize it. Here's an agreement. It's very fair. I just want 20% of the opportunities that I bring you. Oh my God, no.
But it's not even that. Like, so a few different. I would encourage all young managers to just kind of keep track of the things that you're doing for the artist. So, because that conversation is going to come up. Because a lot of times the artist doesn't even realize like what you're doing for them, and it might just be like a ton of little things. So when you isolate one thing, like that's not that big of a deal. But when you look at the laundry list of things you've been doing that you took off of their plate, then it's like, wow, you did all of that stuff for me. So don't try to isolate one little thing and nitpick that and be like, oh, I could have done that myself. What I was about to say is, so I put together a project called 1 Week Notice like 2 years ago, and basically I flew 7 artists. So I came up with the name, came up with the idea. I flew 7 artists, or like 6 artists and 2 producers to Austin, Texas, to make a project in a week. That's why we call it 1 Week Notice. And I look forward to doing this again, but it's an extreme headache. So funded it in partnership with BeatStars. Nothing came out of pocket for the artists. Put them up with a place to stay, transportation. I just thought that the idea would be really dope and creative, and they would get an opportunity to create something that they, hadn't created before, in a time span that they haven't created before. So even after that project, I mean, most of the cast were grateful, and it was it was a really dope project. It didn't reach its full potential because people didn't commit to marketing to the end. But even with that project, one of the artists said, "Well, we could have done this ourselves," and I was like, number one, you didn't have the idea. Like, do you know how much like time it took to like coordinate everything to get you guys to Austin, and so now you're telling me that you could have done this yourself, right? Like, come on, like artists have to be, I mean, I guess it's a stretch to ask them to be realistic, but it's like, come on. So that's why I encourage every artist manager, don't shove it in their face, but just take inventory of the things that you're doing. So in the event that you have that discussion where they're like, well, what, I could have done this myself. You could be like, well, could you really have done all this yourself? And then it's just a very disrespectful comment to have, unless your manager really isn't doing shit. I'm not going to sit here and act. I'm not going to sit here and act like every manager is a quality manager, because I know they're not. But actually, me and Ja recently had that discussion too, and it's just it's a totally different discussion with Ja than any music artist I've worked with, because he literally said, he was like, technically I could have done this myself, but I know that I wouldn't have. So yes, you're entitled to, it's super easy, super refreshing conversation to have with Big Ja, as opposed to pretty much every music artist that I've had.
I just think you're gonna lead such a tortured existence if that's your mindset, rather than just being grateful for the opportunities that come your way and saying, okay, cool, this one's done. I got what I got. Let me share that with the people that helped me, and move on to the next opportunity. And having the mindset that the next opportunity is going to be bigger and the following one's going to be even bigger. They're so focused on squeezing every little drop out of that one opportunity that they waste time. They look like assholes. They burn bridges. And some managers are trash. Let me not romanticize managers. So one of the teams. My bad. Go ahead. I'm about to go off.
I just didn't want to leak because a few minutes ago. Actually, continue with your thought, and I'll make sure I remember something that you had said.
Well, yeah. So when I was a part of this team that totally collapsed, a big part of it was the manager, and it hurt my soul to the core, because this manager was such a big mentor to me when I was a kid. Like when I was doing community service at a teen center. That, like, I don't want to get too deep into it, but he was managing us. Think it felt good, and then slowly but surely, weird stuff started happening. Like we had a college event, and he lit a blunt inside of the college building. And so like we're jumping at him trying to put the thing out, you know, like in slow motion, no, just, you know, running at the swisher, just no. And then there was another event at a club where he got into a fight with somebody, and it, you know, was making a scene in the parking lot. And it looked bad, but that kind of toxicity started seeping into everybody else, into all other aspects of how we communicated within that group. So needless to say, it didn't last long. And for me, this was around the time when I started realizing that I had a lot of potential as an individual creator, and that I didn't need a team. I would love to have people around me, and we all succeed together. But, you know, if I'm running a marathon and you're sitting in a lawn chair, or you're casually sauntering up and down the street, there's not much I can do for you. I'm not strong enough to pick you up and run with you, let alone pick up and run, you know, with 5 other grown adults. So it was just a situation I had to walk away from, and you know, no love lost, but well, actually there was, because the manager really hurt my feelings. But you know, it is what it is, and that's just an unfortunate reality. I think a lot of people romanticize teams, and I'm the guy I wouldn't say I'm against teams, but I'm consistently discouraging artists from relying on this idea of a team, simply just because I want people to look at teams as practical. I don't want them to look at them from kind of like a romantic lens, where it's like, I need this team. Everyone has a team. Every time I see Lil Baby, he's got a team with him. Every time I see Yo Gotti, he's got a team with him. You're not them. These people are business entities. And I'm sure there's a lot going on behind the scenes where the team is being constantly tested. And sometimes people leave, sometimes people come, sometimes they go. Just look at it realistically, and walk into a situation as a professional, not as someone with their hearts on their sleeves.
Yeah. So I want to go back, and then I'll respond to that, because you said that, you know, in your management relationship, you said that you asked for, you know, when the artist got to doing bigger things, you asked for 20% of everything you brought to the table. And I don't know and sometimes agreements are like that. That's not necessarily a management agreement. That's just more transactional. It's like, there's definitely people that have brought us opportunities, and we agreed to give them a percentage of everything they brought to the table. I just want to make sure that up and coming managers don't hear that and think that, because a manager should get 20% of everything that comes in, whether they brought it or not. And the reason for that is a manager's doing a shitload of things that they don't get compensated for. You know, they're essentially building out your foundation. Just to give you one example, like I'm responsible for kind of building Ja's team as we grow. They don't necessarily get compensated for that directly, but you know, I could spend a whole week or two like interviewing different business managers and making sure we have the right one that fits the right, like, and that's not something that brings me money directly. You know, I mean, I guess you know, the better team Ja has, the better foundation, the more money it'll bring in the future. But I don't get paid for that specifically. And there's a shitload of things like that. So that is why, you know, a manager should get, you know, whatever percentage that you guys agree to, you know, no matter how the opportunity comes in, right? Because you might do something on a marketing end that just helps your exposure, and that, you know, made opportunities come in through the general email, right? And you can't necessarily tie it to that marketing thing. But as you are supporting the foundation and growing, you know, I just don't want, and that may or may not have been how you guys were set up, but I just don't want young up and coming managers to think that they only get 20% of what they bring to the table, when that shouldn't be the case if you're the full-time manager.
No, we were set up that way. Actually, we were set up just because, I mean, it was an exclusive management agreement, and it prevented the artist from pursuing certain things himself, like booking, for example. We didn't want him booking his own events. It's a bad look for an artist to book their own events at a certain point, because the artist should not, I don't want the artist in a position to negotiate and be a jerk. Let me be the jerk for you. You just make the music. Your reputation needs to be as an artist, not as someone that's the tough negotiator. You know what I mean? So if
very few artists have that skill set, and I think
right.
if you're operating from the other side and you see an artist, because I think when you're coming up, you probably have to negotiate your own show, so that maybe skill set that you acquire. But I think even coming from the other side, most venues or whoever you're negotiating with, if it's an artist, they're gonna assume that you're green, and they'll probably, I don't even say take it, maybe some will take advantage of that, but their mindset will be like, well, this is a pretty green artist, and they'll operate as such.
Well, and it's just it's a psychological thing where if you're the artist, look, I'm the same way, and I've managed artists before. And when I'm the artist, when I'm negotiating on my own behalf, that's not what I want to be doing. I might just agree to a number just to get the conversation done with and lock it in. Whereas if I ask my manager to handle it, he might come back and say, okay, I got you double what your stupid ass was going to ask for, just because I had more time to explain, while you were off making music, I was negotiating. So it feels different. I'm more connected to it, and I just don't want to deal with it.
And as you grow, it may not even be the manager. It may be the lawyer negotiating. Because now we're seeing deals that I don't have experience negotiating. So it's the same thing. Just like the artist doesn't have experience negotiating a certain type of deal, there's deals we're seeing that I don't have experience negotiating, but I know our lawyer does. And that's why, the lawyer will get paid for negotiating that. And we feel more comfortable and protected because, we know our lawyer has our best interest at heart. And I know you have had your issues with lawyers, but that's besides the point. But
just one.
Going back to the team, I'm a team guy. Like, I definitely think, you need some type of team to move in this industry. But you also need to realize that you have to manage your own career. Like, nobody's responsible for your career but you. So you have to pick and choose to do certain things and take advantage of opportunities based on what's in the best interest for you long term, right? Because I've seen a lot of ego get involved. Like, let's say it's a videographer or a director that's part of a team, and like the artist gets bigger, but the director or the videographer's capabilities aren't matching what the artist wants to do. The artist wants things to green screen and all this other stuff, but just realistically, the director you came up with hasn't kept up. He hasn't kept up with the success, So at that point, what do you do if the artist doesn't want to work with you on a project? You could get mad and be like, yo, man, I thought we was day ones. I'm supposed to do all your video and stuff like that. Or you could embrace this new opportunity and just be around and see how the bigger director directs this shoot and network with the label, offer to do the behind the scenes. No, you're not doing the actual video anymore, but you're still there. You're still creating contacts. You're still learning how people that are bigger than you do it. So you can choose at that point to get upset and to move on and start over with smaller artists, or you can learn how, the bigger industry works. And I saw a lot of that. A lot of people that were part of the Funk Volume team, they weren't managing their career. I'm talking about like support people or, just other people, well, even the artists, but because obviously we were moving in different circles. Now we were at South by Southwest, we were on the road. So even at South by Southwest, I'll wake up, I'll go to the sessions, to the actual set. I mean, of course, South by Southwest is fun. We stay up. I love South by Southwest, but I'll still get up and actually go to the sessions. everybody on the team was privy to these sessions to learn and to network and to connect. Did anybody else get up and go? No. Everybody was just having fun, and if that's how you want to treat the experience, that's fine. But you're responsible for your own career. You're responsible for connecting with people, learning, and you just have to know that even if you're a part of a team. So, try to extract your ego from certain situations and figure out, okay, what's best for the team? What's best for me? And if your team's having success, you probably want to, your role might morph if you're not keeping up. Because to be honest with you, there's directors and videographers that got not necessarily bigger than us, but their rate got high that I couldn't even afford them anymore. I was just like, yo, like that's dope that, we were a part of your journey. You're now getting paid more than I'm willing to pay for a video. And that's how it's supposed to work. So, just manage your own career. That's the message, and try to remove your ego as much as possible.
The ego part is important. I mean, we had that conversation. So in the last, I don't know how many days, maybe let's say in the last year, I've worked with a lot of artists. Maybe I think just in 2020, I've produced records, co-produced records for, Nas, Joey Badass, The Lox, Public Enemy, big legendary artists. And that was through teamwork. And so we're splitting everything. And there hasn't been a single instance in which me and the other producers fought over our percentages, because our mindset is, this is one opportunity. We're working together. Let's all win together. Let's all benefit from the situation together. Keep the splits as fair as possible. And why argue over them? Let's work together, maintain our cohesion, and move to the next opportunity together. Because if we're already getting opportunities now together, why split that up over 2, 3, 4, 5 percentage points? That's ridiculous. And right. You see this happening all the time, and I think my thing is, why the hell is a 20% management commission such an intimidating concept for a producer, for a recording artist, or for a band, anybody? And you see these situations where, is it just fear of commitment? What's going on? I would love to hear in the comments section, if you're on a YouTube or AudioMac consuming this podcast, from the perspective of someone who is reluctant to sign an exclusive or non-exclusive, and I've signed plenty of non-exclusive management situations. Some of these deals, you can structure it however you want. Even if the manager says, I want a commission off of everything. Okay, cool. Let's structure it so that you get a smaller commission off of things that you didn't directly bring, and a larger commission off of things that you directly were responsible for. There are 1,000,001 ways to structure these deals. And I don't know what it is about certain creators where they see that number and they think, oh my God, commission, I'm selling my soul. You're not selling your soul. You're working with people. You're being collaborative. You're not being an asshole. You're sharing with the people that got you there.
Well, they're leading and trying to navigate the industry with trauma. And sometimes it's their own trauma, and sometimes it's somebody else's trauma that may or may not went down like you thought it went down. So, that's ultimately why people are super skeptical. But if you flip it around and look at the manager's perspective, it's like, look, I think most people want to be wealthy. Most people don't want to have to worry about money. But, so we're essentially getting 20% of, what's coming through the door. And I'm going to have to find at least 3 other artists at your same level to make as much as you're making, right? And it's such a thankless role. It's a tough role, and it's not for a lot of money. I would say the good managers are worth way more than their 20. I would say the good managers are worth up to 50%. Nobody's going to give a 50% management fee, but I think that the good man, because you're essentially developing a business. You're a business developer, right? And I've seen managers that are worth up to that much. So I think that, you know, when negotiating, a lot of artists are navigating and, you know, with trauma, and they're unrealistic about, you know, what's going to happen in the future, right? And I used to have these arguments with Hop. Like Hop would always, like in the beginning, like he would make up just imaginary scenarios. Like, well, what if I sell a beat to Dr. Dre for $100,000? And I'm like, why is it like that's not even a scenario? I think artists need to understand. This might get too nerdy, but like you need to understand like expected value, right? Like if you have a lottery ticket, and let's just say there's only two outcomes for a lottery ticket. One is that you win $100, and one is that it's $0, right? There's only two outcomes. Obviously, there's millions and millions of outcomes for, you know, a potential lottery ticket. So, and most of them are $0. But let's say there's two outcomes, $100 and $0. So 50% chance of each of those things happening. The expected value is then $50 of that ticket is essentially worth $50 because there's a 50% chance that you get $100 and 50% chance that you get $0. Artists always operate from the mindset that that ticket is for sure worth $100. Like that's the problem. Like no, it's not. It's worth $50. So I think that artists are always assuming the best case scenario, that they are going to sell that beat to Dr. Dre for $100,000. They are going to get signed. They are going to be Bruno Mars. And that's not like the only thing that can happen. That's not the expected value of your career. And I think that's a huge problem.
And well, and then the other thing to that is the human psychology angle, which is when you treat the people around you that are working for your success as though they're disposable and not worthy of sharing in your success, their quality of work and their level of commitment is going to drop. If I'm in the studio with someone at the last minute, they go, yeah, I know I said I was going to give you 500 for this session. I'm only giving you 150 because you're not really worth that much. I'm going to not put my best foot forward in that session because in my head, I'm going to be thinking, I'll probably, now I would walk out, but say I'm like an 18-year-old, whatever. I might sit in there, just be mad as hell. My energy changes. Whatever comes out is not going to be good. Same with with someone who's shooting your video or doing your graphics. If you're paying them, you know, 1/5 of what they're supposed to be making, the product's probably not going to be that great, and that's your fault. You know, just give people what they ask. If it's unreasonable, it's unreasonable. You know, find somebody else. But you've got to treat people with dignity, and if you don't expect the world from them. I think we probably run this conversation into the ground. Next week, I do want to tackle something that you brought up as a topic, which was producers selling or sending out the same beat to multiple artists. You remember that? You brought that up, right?
Oh, yeah, we never circled back to that.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about that when Lo-Fi was on, just so I'm not the lone producer speaking on behalf of all producers, but maybe we can get another producer for the guest spot next week.
Yeah. So to summarize, like I said, manage your career. You are responsible. And this was advice that was given to me in the corporate world. Like, you have to manage your career. You have to understand where you want to go, and, you know, you have to do the things to get to where you want to be. And, you know, you got to be a good person. You do need a team. You need to build relationships. You got to remove your ego sometimes and to see, you know, what's the best thing for you moving forward. So yeah, I think that was a solid conversation.
Cool. Once again, this is the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast powered by BeatStars, beatstars.live. We're live on Mondays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on beatstars.live. Check out musicentrepreneur.club.com, beatstars.world, or you can text a number that I always forget to be updated every single time that we go live. What's the number?
Text MEC to 844-206-7800, and we'll send you a text every time we go live.
I knew the prefix. I think that counts for something.
For sure.
I appreciate you tuning into the podcast. Peace, everyone.
Peace.